Hey, it is so good to have you here this weekend on NFL Kickoff Weekend. We are celebrating. This is the year of the Chiefs. I'm telling you, this is our year. So be in prayer. Hey, we are thrilled that you're here, and I want to welcome all of our friends over in Simi Valley at Discovery Church. Let's all welcome them and say welcome. And I want to welcome everybody, obviously, here at Valencia, inside and outside, but I want to give a special welcome to the very first weekend at Canyon Church in Mitchell Elementary. All right, everybody over there. Such exciting things going on around here, not just NFL Kickoff Weekend, but obviously the launch of Canyon Church and the 161 baptisms we're still celebrating. School is back in, Labor Day is done, we're back into the routine, and everybody is promptly busy. I bet on the way in here, you said to somebody, how you doing? And they said busy, or they said tired. Or busy and tired, or tired and busy. That's pretty much all we say to each other. And so we thought what we'd do is, as we're kicking off this new series, and we're kicking off this new idea, we're going to talk about getting good at being busy. And now, the reason we're saying it that way, which sounds like such a weird title, is because I've given up on any of us stopping being busy. I mean, it's just a way of life. I mean, if you lived in Dubuque, Iowa, or something like that, you might be able to kind of calm it down. But where we live, and where most of us drive 90 minutes to work one way and 90 minutes home, it is pedal to the metal, or, 15 miles an hour in traffic, as much as you possibly can in order to get the most out of life and the most out of your day. And so if we're always busy, how do we get better about that? And does God have anything to say about it? And so we're going to talk about that over the next 4 weeks. And let me just preface all this by saying this. I recognize there are some of us that maybe you need to get a little busier. You need to be able to get a little bit more, adrenaline or emotion or, ambition. I get that. But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the rest of us who our calendar is packed, we got too much going on, and we're overwhelmed right now with life, and it's just begun with the school year. So, when it comes to being busy, is there any way we could do it a little bit better? I mean, for most of us, when you talk to somebody and they say they're busy, you respond with, yeah, I'm busy too, and try to up the game a little bit and tell them how busy you are. In fact, most of us, we very rarely say, you know what, I'm not busy at all. In fact, I took a 6-hour nap today. I got way too much time on my hands. I'm probably going to go to bed early, and sleep in and maybe have breakfast around 11. I just got nothing to do. Nobody says that, okay? Because if you did, you wouldn't tell anybody, right? So if all of us are struggling with being busy, how could we do it a little bit better? Here's the thing I know about you and about me, and that is when it comes to being busy, nothing seems to help us. Barnes & Noble is filled with books about how to simplify your life, but they're not helping. You have planners, you have alarms on your phone, you have, digital calendars, you have the family calendar that's been written on, and, the golden rule, use it in pencil, but nobody does. They use a Sharpie, and then you're crossing it out and moving things around. And you've got that, but nobody is getting life easier. It's only getting busier. And so if that's the case, it's not more information, it's not more scheduling, it's not more planners that we need. Maybe we need to go back and ask the originator of our life how to better deal with our life. And so that's what we're going to do over the next 4 weeks. And so I'm asking you, would you give us the next 4 weeks? Because I think what happens over these next 4 weeks at whatever campus you're watching at, or if you're watching at our online campus, whatever campus you're at, I think over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be able to give you some principles that will help you throughout the rest of the year, and maybe the rest of your life. A few things that might be able to change the way you think about your schedule without having to cancel everything. To change the way that you deal with rest so you're better when you get back to the busyness. And change the way you deal with your family so that they're not so angry at you because of how busy that you are. And you'll stop resenting your kids for all of the sports they play that you signed them up for. Okay? So we're going to try to figure that out and learn that together. So I'm asking you to be with us for every single week of this series. And if you're traveling, you can watch online or through the app. And I'm telling you, I need this series as much as anybody. Okay, I am a bit of a, well, some might call it a control freak. I choose not to use those terms. I tend to call it, just strong leadership. But anyway, I tend to get all over my calendar, and I've got the planner, I've got the digital calendar synced up to the phone, color-coded and everything, and I tend to live by that. But here's the problem with that. Not everybody understands my calendar, and they keep messing it up, mainly my family. And when my kids text me and said, "Dad, I left this at home, can you run back home and get it and bring it to me?" I want to say, it's not on my planner. I did not have an hour blocked out to go get your homework because you did not think of it, right? I remember this a few weeks ago. My wife's car broke down in Target, or outside of Target, obviously, in Target. Boy, that'd be something. Anyway, that might have made the news. So, breaks down, she calls me, the car won't start, and we've been married 25 years. She knows I'm not a mechanic. I'm not coming over there to, maybe she thinks I'm going to pray over it or whatever, but the car's not starting, and my instinct is I look at the planner, and fixing the car is not on there, okay? Now, I'm a good husband, and 2 hours later, I went over there to help her, but I'm kidding. I went right away, okay? But my instinct is it's not in the planner, because I'm trying to get good at being busy, but unfortunately, just dealing with a really good planner isn't enough. And so we've decided to approach this a little bit differently. And over the next 4 weeks, we're going to give you some basic principles you can put into play that will help you, not just your schedule, but your relationship with each other, your relationship with God. And even if you're not sure what you think about God, I think you're going to find these principles so good, you're going to want to try them out, because this is a place where you can belong before you ever believe, and kind of journey with us through this. And I'd love for you to take that journey. And then even next week when you're with us, we're going to give out stress balls to everybody. It's just a way to say, hey, kind of rest a little bit, and we'll give it out after the service so you don't throw it at the stage, okay? So that's coming up. So let's just dive right into this idea, and let's start by talking about the problem that we have when it comes to the issue of being busy, and then we'll get to the solution, okay? And it really comes down to this. You ever heard this phrase before? Life is a race. And it's maybe you've heard it terms of a rat race, okay? Maybe you've heard it as, you know what, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, but it feels like a sprint for 26.2 miles or for your whole life. In fact, the best analogy I've heard for it is it's a little bit like a NASCAR race, okay? And we got a little image here of NASCAR, and if you've ever seen NASCAR or been, on the sidelines of this, I mean, it's basically the same thing over and over and over and over again. In fact, this is just free. I recently heard what NASCAR stands for. I don't know if you knew this or not. Non-athletic sport centered around rednecks. That's just what I mean, and we have some proof here. I mean, there they are. And so, I'm sorry, those of you watching at Barstow or Bakersfield, but, it's just, I'm kidding. Well, now the NASCAR people are going to get mad, and throw a beer at me. So anyway, NASCAR, whether you think it's a sport or not, there is this thing of it's just the same thing over and over again, which is a little bit how like you and I feel about our daily life. I mean, 1 week rolls into the next and the next and the next. You just feel like, here we go again, here we go again, here we go again. So let me give you a word that rhymes with race that really kind of sums up what we're all dealing with when it comes to the busyness in our life. And that is this word, chase. We chase in the race to get things we don't have, to impress people we don't even know, and to be something we've not yet become. And we chase after these things. We chase these things like experiences and money and stuff and degrees and promotions and likes and shares and forwards. I learned a new word just a few weeks ago, verified. Those of you older than 35, let me explain this to you. On the Instagram, okay, when you are somebody that becomes so popular, they allow you to be verified by Instagram so they can let everybody else know this is the actual real person. So there's not all these copycats out there. And my daughter says to me, "Dad, you need to be verified." I said, "Honey, I've got like 7 followers. I mean, I don't think I need to be verified. There's not a lot of people out there, pretending to be Rusty George. And she said, why is that so funny? Okay. She says to me, well, no, Dad, you need to be verified. I said, I think they just do that for you. And she goes, no, you can apply for it. And so she took my phone and she applied for me to be verified. And a week later, I was denied. And now guess what? I want to be verified, okay? I think about it every day. I think maybe today, but I didn't know I wanted that, but now I suddenly want it, and I'm chasing after it. And obviously I'm kidding, kind of, but if you could follow me, that'd be great. But you have these things, and I have these things that we chase after constantly because we think this is going to give us what we want. And there's a word that we use for this. It's more of 4 letters, and that's FOMO, or the fear of missing out. I didn't want it until I saw that you had it. I didn't want to do that until I saw that you did that. For instance, when my wife and I got married, we moved to Lexington, Kentucky to work at a church there, and everybody there vacationed in Hilton Head. I'd never heard of Hilton Head before. But everybody's talking about their trips to Hilton Head and how wonderful it is, and I think, well, we got to go to Hilton Head. What's there? I don't know, but everybody's going there. We never even made it to Hilton Head. We move out here, and everybody's talking about going to Cabo. I didn't know we were going to Cabo. I grew up watching the Love Boat. Everybody's going to Acapulco, and nobody's talking about that anymore. I don't know what happened to that, if it was run over by drug lords or whatever, but Cabo seems to be the place to go now, and so everybody's going, we got to go. And there's all these things that you and I kind of, we see other people do. Did you know that you can go to a place on the other side of the world and hold sloths? That's a real thing. Did you know that you can stay in a hotel where giraffes roam around outside your hotel and look in your window? That's kind of weird, but I kind of want to do that, we didn't know some of these things existed, but now we chase after them, which leads us to a lot of other fears that we have. Take a look at this fear, the fear of not mattering. Some of us have this fear because all of our peers and friends suddenly seem more verified or more important and matter more than we do, which leads to the fear of falling behind. Like, I'm not keeping up with everybody else. I'm not where I should be. I'm not as far as my dad was at this age, or my friends are at this age, or the people I graduated with, which leads to the fear of disappointing others. I don't want to let my parents down. I don't want to let my kids down. I don't want to let my spouse down. And as a result, we chase. We chase and we chase. And you might call it a race, but you're really not racing to beat somebody. You're racing to chase something that you just haven't obtained yet. Think about it. If you can remember 5 years ago the things that you so desperately wanted, odds are you've probably already got them. But you don't enjoy them because you're too focused on the things you want 5 years from now. You and I chase after the race. So here's what we want. Here's what we need instead of the chase. What we need is this word, space. We need a little bit of space in between where we are and where the edge is. And here's what I mean by that. We need some margin, physically, emotionally, relationally, financially, spiritually. The slightest little thing, when we are pressed to pedal to the metal, when we are just going 24/7, the slightest little thing can throw us into the wall, if we use the NASCAR analogy. Think about that, what that might look like for you. If you don't have space in your life and you're living on the edge continually, you are tired, you're worn out, you're on the go, you're trying to keep up, and that's when your spouse says something to you and you snap. Whoa, what got into you? You just don't have any emotional bandwidth. Maybe for you it's physically. You don't sleep, you eat poorly, you don't exercise, and everything is fine until you pull that piece of luggage off, the carousel there at LAX, and you throw your back out. And you're out for weeks, and you think, I used to bounce back so quick. What's wrong? You had no margin physically. Financially, the same thing. No savings, no backup plan, and then something happens, and you can't fix the car, or you can't, sponsor a child, or you can't help out your niece going on a mission trip because you've got no margin. We can even live on the edge spiritually, where we think we're just constantly trying to get, God's approval and make God happy and do all this stuff for God. And one day we wake up and think, why am I even doing this? And we run for the hills because we don't want anything to do with it anymore, just because we're exhausted. And so we react. We sell stuff. We move into a tiny house. We move to Boise, Idaho. That seems to be the trend right now. We bring in Marie Kondo, and she comes in to do the tidying up and get everything sold. And we do everything we can to try to calm down the chase. But what we're really looking for is space, because you and I know the best things in life require space. Our health, our relationships, a great family, retirement, security, creativity, art, and beauty, they require margin. And when we chase, we have no space. And I think everybody here today knows what it's like to live a chaotic life, a crazy type of schedule, and there's no space. I have some good news for you, and that is that there is a way where you and I can begin to fix this without having to cross anything off of our schedule just yet. Because right now you're thinking, I'm going to lower the hammer on, you need to cut this out and stop this and start this. We're not even going to get into that right now. But there is something you and I can do, and it builds this foundation for getting good at being busy. And when we begin to lay this foundation, it changes everything. And it's not a to-do, it's a to-think. It's an attitude. Let me give you one word for it, and it's this word: content. To find the way in your life to be content with where you are in life. It's not a church word, it's not a Bible word, it's just an attitude word. Now, there was this guy that lived in the first century who lived just constantly chasing. And he grew up Jewish, and so he chased after perfection in the Jewish religion, and he became a high-ranking official in the Jewish church, in the synagogue and the temple. He was a Pharisee, and he would chase after Christians to imprison them because they didn't believe what he believed. And this guy, I mean, if you're to do the tests on him, he's probably a 1 on the Enneagram. He's probably a high D. He's type A. You get the idea. His name was Saul, and then suddenly he saw Jesus after Jesus had come back from the dead, changes his life, even changes his name to Paul. And then he goes chasing after following Jesus. And he spends his life running around the Mediterranean rim, planting churches and writing letters and preaching sermons. And somewhere later on in life, he begins to settle down a little bit, and he begins to learn what contentment is. And he learns it in the strangest of places. He learns it in a prison cell. He finds himself one day arrested for what it is he believes and what it is he was teaching. He's in prison, and he writes this letter towards the end of his life. And look what he says. He starts off by saying, I have learned to be content. This fast-paced life that I've lived, going one way and then taking a hard right and going this way, I've learned how to calm down and be content. You know what this tells me? This is a learned behavior. None of us are born with the idea of I'm content at all times. Some of us are more calm, but none of us understand this level of contentment because we're constantly fueled with images telling us you're not enough, you don't have enough, you need more. And Paul says, I finally figured it out. I have learned how to be content. And that's not a natural expression. I love the way that Sandra Stanley writes this. She says, as we see God meet our needs despite our fears of missing out or falling behind, we grow more confident that he can be trusted. And Paul says, that's what I've learned. In fact, I've learned to be content, and he continues on, whatever the circumstances. Did I mention where he's writing this? He's in prison. And we have this image of prison based upon the movies that we've seen, and maybe some of you work in law enforcement and you've seen prison cells. This is a horrific sight. There are probably dirt floors. There's rats running everywhere. He may or may not get fed. There's probably water running through his cell. He probably hasn't seen anybody, maybe not even the light of day for a long period of time. Somebody's given him a piece of paper and he's writing stuff down. I mean, it's a horrific sight. And he says, I have found contentment here. And then he continues on. Look what he says next. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. In other words, I've experienced it all. I have had moments where I've been hungry, and I've had moments where I've had plenty to eat. I've had moments when I've been in palaces and at times when I've been in prison. I've had a full social calendar, and I've had no one call me back. In your case, this might be, you know what, I've had moments where I've had tons of likes on my post and moments I've been ghosted. I've had moments where my social calendar was full, moments nobody was interested in me. I've had moments where I had a good paying job and moments I couldn't find work. I lived through the Kobe years and then I lived through the Lonzo years. I mean, you know the depths of this, right? Both expressions. And he says, I've been through it all. And then he says this. This is so key for us trying to get good at being busy. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Don't you want to know what that secret is? He says, this is the secret that I have learned. And I mean, Paul didn't belong in prison. Everything in him wants to be out teaching people and preaching to people about who Jesus is. He's thinking, I'm wasting my life in this prison cell. Little did he know he was writing a letter we'd still be talking about 2,000 years later. And he says, I've learned this secret. What's the secret, Paul? Here it is. I can do all of this through him who gives me strength. In other words, whatever situation I'm in, whether I have a lot or I have a little, whether I feel like I'm missing out or whether I feel like everybody is just following me, whether I feel like I'm living up to my potential or I feel like I haven't even scratched the surface, whatever the situation is, I have learned how to be content through him, through Jesus, who gives me strength. Here's what he's saying. The way you think about Jesus changes the way you think about your life. And if you really know what Jesus thinks about you, then suddenly this fear of missing out begins to go away because you know that he's crazy about you. In fact, when you begin to discover contentment, contentment stops the chase and creates space. It doesn't mean that you have to stop being a type A personality. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be a high driver or be ambitious or anything like that. He just says when you discover contentment, you can be grateful whatever your circumstances. Now, here's the pushback you and I will have with this, because right now you might be thinking, that sounds fine, I could do that, I can do that. And you're going to get out there in the workplace and you're going to think, I got to keep up, got to keep up, got to keep up. And he says, just hang on. The question is, do I trust God to give me what I need? Do I trust God? In other words, most of us are begging God for stuff, and he's like, it's right there. Or I've already provided it. You're just missing it. We're chasing everywhere else, and he's saying, it's right here. Have you seen these pictures that people post of why are my kids crying? I mean, they're amazing. I found just a few that I thought were funny. This one here, why is this kid crying? He can't find his red ball to play with. It's right there behind him. Okay, can't see it. Here's another one. Why is she crying? I wouldn't buy her the Dolly movie for Christmas. It's Chucky, okay? So, yeah, we're not seeing that, all right? And then finally, why is he crying? T-Rex jaw's not big enough to bite this Lego man's head. You know, oh, the humanity, right? And so the things that we laugh about our kids crying about, and God's like, you're doing the same thing. You're so frustrated about not keeping up and not making sure everybody else is happy with you when you are enough right now as is. And so maybe let me give you this one word that can help us as we begin this journey to get good at being busy. Here's the word. Enough. Enough. I have enough. I am enough. This is enough. What about tomorrow? What about, if it's not enough? What if I need more? Okay, well, let's tweak this just a bit. Enough for now. Who knows what tomorrow holds? But I have enough for now. Who knows where I'm going to end up? But I'm enough for now. For today, for this situation and circumstance I'm facing, I have enough for now. Now think about how that little phrase could change every aspect of your life and give us space. When it comes to your calendar, somebody says, hey, you guys want to do something on Saturday night? Instead of, yeah, absolutely. We got 3 dinners, but you know what? We'll add yours as well. We'll just move some stuff around, and maybe we'll split up for a little bit. Can you take me on a Zoom call? I'll be there as well. Just stop it. No, we are busy enough this week. Social media. Did you see that post? Nobody saw the post. I need to post it again. Let's share it. Let's put it out there. Would you like that post? Nope. That's enough. You're scrolling through Instagram right before you go to sleep, and you see, look what they're doing, look what they're doing. I should be doing more. Why am I not keeping up? No. I'm enough for now. What about work? I could stay another hour, and I could totally skip dinner and be late for the baseball game, but do they even know I'm there? Because if I work a little harder, my boss will know I'm here, and that's going to help us, and I'm doing it all for them. No, I've done enough for now. What about at home? We're just watching TV. I can catch up on a few emails. Nobody will really know. I'll get a little bit of work done. You've done enough for now. You know what this means? This means when you begin to understand this concept, just begin to have this attitude of contentment. You stop having this fear of missing out. And suddenly you just don't have to chase like you used to. Because how we think about these things determines how we do these things. And when you get so frustrated, and I get so frustrated about keeping up with others and disappointing some and making sure everybody's happy, we consume ourselves with the wrong thing and we chase the wrong stuff and we miss out on space. Contentment says, I have enough in Christ. Because think about it. If you're not content now, you're not going to be content later. And if you're not happy with this, then you won't be happy with that. So why don't we learn right now to change our attitude about who we are, where we are, what we're doing, what we have, and just say, in Christ, I have enough, I am enough for now. Contentment doesn't always change your circumstances, but it does change you. Just like chasing doesn't always change your circumstances, but it definitely changes you. So what if you let contentment be the thing you pursue? We'll get to schedules and planning and all that later, but right now, as we're starting out with this, what if you just decide, I'm enough, I have enough for now? If you're in one of our community groups, and we've got community groups and dinner groups and parties going on all over Southern California right now as we continue through this series, here's some of the questions you're going to talk about over the next few nights. What consumes most of your time? Think about that a little bit as you prepare for this group. Here's another one. What would you say you are chasing in life? I mean, what a great question for us to wrestle with. Here's another one. When Paul talks about contentment in this passage, where do you struggle with contentment? And finally, this question here. In what area are you choosing to say enough for now this week? Maybe you're not in a group right now, but these questions are things you can talk about on the way home, because it's not enough just to hear information. We got to put it into practice. And the way we do that is to start by saying enough for now. So here's the prayer I want us all to pray this week. And it's simply this: God, through you, I have enough for today. It's not saying for the rest of my life. It's not saying, boy, I sure would like to get married one day, or we sure would like to have kids, or I'd like to have a house. Let's just stop right now for today. Through you, I have enough for today. Let me pray for you. God, I thank you for these amazing people assembled in Canyon Country and Valencia, Simi Valley, and those online all around the world. We're all trying to figure out how we can kind of slow things down and just get a handle on our crazy week and month and our life. And we want to get good at this thing, God, of our relationships and dealing with busyness. And so, God, would you help us just to find contentment in saying those simple words through you, I have enough for today. God, may that be our prayer this week. And we thank you that because of you, we are enough. And we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.